Hey there everyone, it's time for another Sakura Zoo update, and today it's a viewer suggested animal. Say hello to the meerkat. Shockingly, we don't have much to build today. For those who saw, the pygmy hippo habitat bled just a little bit into the space, which isn't a bad thing as it speeds the work up. First things first though, I am going to lift the terrain up just a tad. It's a rather small habitat, and seeing as we are working with some meerkats, we don't need that big of a drop in the habitat floor. This also changes up the elevation a bit and keeps our guests just a tad more engaged. For those who are new to Sakura Zoo, this is actually a franchise modded zoo. I'm using Free Build and PZ+, both of which have made everything you see here just easier to build. It's totally doable with Vanilla Planet Zoo though, but you might need to make things just a tad bigger. The biggest change is clearly the ability to modify terrain with paths on it, a true game changer that just makes things a tad more user-friendly in-game. Now if you're new to modding or you want to explore modding, head on over to our Discord and ask for some help. The community is more than happy to help out. Now with all that terrain work out of the way, it's time to fill in the habitat. I know we're only like a minute and a half into the video, but we're already near the end. Now I did roughen the terrain up just a little bit, off screen, and adding in some more dips and ridges to simulate that sandy, dusty terrain we typically associate with meerkats. Now I started everything by placing down 2 burrows and the anthill as the main enrichment items. This is key because we don't want to mess up all that terrain work I just spent forever working on. To help keep everything there, you can actually use the path trick. Place a path down and then your enrichment item on top of it. This actually helps to preserve the terrain and place your enrichment items without any worry. Honestly, it's a must-have kit for your PZ toolbox, and it was there that I also placed not 1 but 2 log tunnels, something for our meerkats to explore and wander through. The core enrichment items out of the way, it was really time to start working on the foliage, and I realize I'm not the greatest, and I have no problem admitting that when it comes to foliage work. But this is also how I know I'm improving. I still remember my first YouTube video, which actually had the meerkat in it, so trust me, when I say I'm doing better, I really think I am. I'm trying to keep the foliage here to a minimum. It's important that we have some coverage and plants that are going to draw the eye and fill in the floor, but I don't want it to wash out the meerkats either. They are really small, and having too much foliage, you'll just never see them exploring and playing around. Now I used 2 trees to anchor the habitat. Think of them as the nails that hold everything in place. They also add quite a bit of additional elevation and break the sight lines to other habitats that we're eventually going to be adding at some point. And with some various bushes and plants placed around, things were starting to come together. The drain grass really did a lot of the heavy lifting today. I'm also going to go through and add quite a few of the African branches. While they aren't enrichment items, they look similar enough that we can imagine the meerkats digging around and exploring on them, taking a lot of inspiration here from the Toronto Zoo meerkat habitat. Now before we go any further, let's check in on our pygmy hippo. Last episode, I had asked for a story as to why Sakura Zoo is home to a single pygmy hippo. And I want to say thank you to Jalen Willerson, who shared an amazing story, and I've pinned that comment on the video itself, and I definitely encourage you to check it out. Mabel, an employee of Sakura Zoo, was enjoying her morning coffee when she received a call from a director of the Grand Metropolitan Zoo. It turns out that a mix-up had occurred when some donors were supposed to provide a sculpture of a pygmy hippo. Some way, somehow, some wires got crossed, and instead of a sculpture, an actual living pygmy hippo was transferred to the zoo instead. Sadly, they don't have the space for their wayward hippo, so the zoo scrambled and began to reach out to their friends at other zoos, bringing us back to the call that Mabel had just received. After much discussion, a week later, Milo, the pygmy hippo, was now calling Sakura Zoo home. And while the zoo didn't have a habitat ready for them, they did have an older habitat that was used to house a capybara. While not perfect, it was more than enough to home Milo. The news and locals loved the story so much that they began to call Milo, Milo the Mist Delivered. Now, I've kind of brushed over some of the details that Jalen had used, so I encourage you all to check out the full story, but I loved reading it, and I like how it fits with the habitat itself being a tad too small for more than one pygmy hippo. Thank you again, Jalen, for the amazing story. Now, getting back to our meerkats, we're almost done with our foliage work. I especially liked adding in a tree log on top of the anthill, a small detail that adds a bit of fun to the overall build. I'm already imagining a meerkat hanging out on the top, exploring what's outside of their habitat. You also might have noticed I was missing some water. So it was at this point that I kind of snuck it in. The automated water dish is a given here for any habitat, and I'm going to hide most of it away. Moving just a few plants to make room for it is easier now than if I'd forgotten all the way at the end. To hide the keeper house and the pipe for the water dish, I used the mud walls from Susie Creates, just giving it a more natural look overall. I also took some time here to section off the keeper area, hiding all of that terraforming. Remember when I said that I raised the terrain work here a little bit? It made a rather messy backstage, so we're not going to be exploring it, and WSIB doesn't need to know about all the pits in the ground for all of our staff to fall in. Now remember when I mentioned that this was inspired by Toronto Zoo? I actually had the opportunity to feed the meerkats using some everyday household items. Some mealworms and plastic bottle are a great way to have meerkats trying to work for their food, keeping them engaged and active. I like to imagine that Sakura Zoo has a community outreach program allowing students interested in animal husbandry to come spend a day with the keepers in our Africa house. And the meerkats are a great species for some hands-on feeding experiences. And speaking of health and safety, we're going to continue to use our glass barriers to keep our guests out of reach and our meerkats in their home. So nothing too fancy, and with it all in place, we are nearing the end of our build today. The last place that we need to work on is our foliage walls. Remember, this is an indoor house, so we want to transport the guests to a different world. Some foliage helps to tie everything together and add a splash of color that blends well with our orange floors. Of course, there's still a lot of work left to do in our Africa house, and it'll all come with time. As always, I want to say thank you to our channel members as well. They're helping to support the zoo and all that I do. I'm also going to refresh our members wall, adding it to our new Africa house as well. Keeping in line with our tradition of having the community have a say in our builds, what other animals would you like to see here? Feel free to leave some emojis of your favorite African animals that you want to see in the comments below. And if you want to see more of Sakura Zoo, feel free to hit the subscribe button. Otherwise, let's see how our meerkats are finding their new home, and I look forward to showing you more of Sakura Zoo soon. As always, ciao for now everyone.